Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's session of ERP solution. So, like you all know, we bring in different ERP solutions and try to see how processes can be done within that particular ERP solution. So, today, the ERP solution we are going to be using for our test scenario is called ERPNext. ERPNext is a full-fledged ERP solution. So, my name is Olumide Haino and I work with PinMetrics Limited. I am an ERP consultant with over 15 years of experience in deploying ERP solution and automating business processes across Nigeria. So we are going to look at a process today which is called sales process. So then the sales process would involve us making sales to customers, which are the third parties. So the process would go in the line of the normal business process that we are all familiar with, but we will try to make it very simple. So let's go straight to when that process is not cumbersome. Let's look at a very simple process when it comes to sales. That is, customer walks up to your store or walks up to your company, make a request of a particular product, and you sell to them immediately. So when you are selling to them immediately, it automatically affects your stock and the respective ledger account. So this aspect is actually known as our sales invoice. So that process is very direct. But there could be scenarios whereby the process is more than just raising an invoice. It could start with the aspect whereby a quotation is requested by your customer. This quotation is then being converted to a sales order. This sales order is then being converted to a sales invoice. So it just depends on what kind of process that works for your company. So this one we're talking about is just a very direct process, making of sales invoice. So we're skipping the aspect of quotation, sales order, then go to sales invoice. But I will still discuss some of the aspects of the sales invoice from end to end. Then we can also use what we call point of sales, capturing your sales within that organization. So there will be another video whereby I talked about how to use a POS software, which is also on ERPNext to capture all your sales invoice. So let's look at this process, a very simple process. This process involves sales, and I click on sales invoice. Then you capture the third party or the customer that you wish to sell the product to. So I'm using this as an example. Let me pick a customer here. I'll pick a customer here just for our training purpose. Let me just pick one. Let's say I'm picking this. Let's assume I'm picking this, and we are using a test environment. So I'm changing this to training, and I can decide to change my posting date, which is the date at which this transaction actually occurred. So I can decide to use that as well, but I will stick to today's date and process my transaction. Now you could have some settlement terms, that is the agreement you've had with this customer on when payment is supposed to be due. So you could decide that, oh, you want to have some kind of settlement terms which is configured along with the customer. This training doesn't cover that, whereby we are going to do all that process or that setup from the beginning. But what we are looking at is just to make a sales immediately. And if you are not doing the setup of your settlement terms, you can actually pick when the payment on this sales invoice is due. So you can pick it so that the system start counting and alerting you or alerting the customer on when their payment is actually due so that they can make that payment. And so let's just move on. Now, automatically based on this setup that is done, we've decided to cut the delivery process. Yeah, the system has a level whereby you can just raise an invoice, and at the end of the day you write a delivery note to that. So we can include the delivery notes into it. That's delivery process into this particular process we are talking about. So when I don't tick on update stock, it means it will generate a process for me whereby I need to do a delivery note. Maybe we'll look at that process also, but let's just stick to this, updating the stock immediately when an invoice is done, and we're fine. So let's look at this. I'm picking an item. So the item I'm using is this. Then how many quantity am I selling from this? Then remember, we are supposed to as well pick a warehouse. Now listen, because I have chosen this customer here, this rate or this price has been integrated to the customer, so I don't need to start typing the customer's price. I can set up a pricing rule. I can set up a pricing rule based on some criteria which the customer falls under. By the time I pick that customer, then it brings up the pricing rule. This training also doesn't cover the setting up of pricing rule. So if I have to change the price, you can still change it here. If you want to restrict users from changing the price, it is also possible within the ERPNext. So I'll do this. Then I'll pick a warehouse. I'm picking a warehouse where I can sell from. Hopefully I have products within this warehouse. Then all I just need to do is click on save. Remember, save is just to keep that transactions intact. You can have a workflow within this particular process as well, that when it is being saved, your user capturing it is actually different from a line manager who is going to approve that. We can also achieve that with ERPNext. So that sends a notification via mail to the line manager to approve the sales invoice before this particular user can process. But this training, we've been able to cut all those processes. We've been able to remove the aspect of workflow so that we just have a seamless process rather than we logging in and logging out of the application. So I have this as well. So this is under draft already, so it is saved. So for me to be able to update the stock and also my ledger account, I just click on submit. Then I click on yes. So this means that the stock has been removed from the warehouse. Look at this now. I have unpaid, which means that the sales has been made, but payment has not been done. So if I decide at this point, look at this, to check my stock ledger to see how the stock moved from wherever I'm selling from, it's highly possible within the ERPNext. Or I can click on accounting ledger. When I click on accounting ledger, I should be seeing the ledger account that were affected. Look at this. So the sales account is affected, which shows that sales was actually made. Then the debtors control account, which is this is the debtors control account, which is also affected. So this is the debtors control account. This is the cost of sales account. This is affected. Then stock of Calabar. So this is also affected in terms of stock, crediting the stock ledger account. And what else? The cost of sales account. Okay, this is sales account rather. Then this is the cost of sales account at this process. So our transaction double entry principle comes to place here, and you can see it's all balanced. So thank you very much on that. So I go out of here now. Let's move on and let's try to see what other process do we have. After doing this, I can decide to create other documents from this level or go to the screens of each of these documents. But what we want to do is to have a seamless process from beginning till the end. What next do I need to do? Collect money from this customer and record it. So at this process, I click on create. So on my create, I can make a payment request, sending to the customer. But this process, we are skipping out this. We are collecting money from the customer directly from here. So I click on payment request. So let's assume it's the same day. Then mode of payment, which has been set up. Let me say I'm collecting into my Access Bank account. And what else? Come down to this. Then what else? Nothing. Then I click on save. I'm collecting the whole amount, so that is why I have it. So depending if it is what's it called, a cash customer, which means you can collect the money, the whole money from the. But if it's a credit customer, you can, which means the customer will pay, is either paying in advance or paying later. So all those processes can actually be monitored within the ERPNext. But this is a cash customer. We are making the sales invoice and we are collecting the money immediately. So I click on save. Okay, so it's requesting for a check number or a reference number to that payment. The reference number could be, for instance, if it was a transfer that was done, there should be a reference number on that. So you enter the reference number from the receipt or the means of payment that the customer has sent to you. Then the date at which this particular payment was actually done, you could have that within the ERPNext. Then I click on save. Then clicking on save, then I click on submit. So save is just to draft it as a document. While submit means to post it into his ledger account. So I click on submit and this will post the transaction. So clicking on this, I have a full process solution. So let me click on this to see my double entry that was done. So at this point, look at this, your debtors control account will be credited, which shows that the money was paid, and as well the bank which received the money. So you have a complete process regarding your sales invoice. So that aspect is concluded. So you can check whatever report relating to this sales invoice within the ERPNext. But let's look at something at this level so I can just give you a process. And let's look at the other process I talked about involving delivery notes. So if I would have to involve a delivery note there, I'll go back here again. Let's try another scenario with that. I'll click here, add sales invoice. Then pick a customer. I'm picking the same customer. Then it's a training process. It's a training process. I have the training here. I'm not editing the data. I still want the same date. I'll pick a warehouse. I'll pick the same item. Then let's say 5. This time around is 5. Yes. So this time around, I don't want it to update stock. So what I just do is to uncheck this box. Note something. Immediately I clicked on this warehouse was removed, which shows that that particular product is not supposed to be updated in the warehouse or in the inventory ledger. Then I click on save, which gives a draft. Then I click on submit. So that process is already completed. If I go here, so for my clients like Enico Global don't need to untick. Enico Global don't need to untick the update stock. All they just need to do is just to do their process seamlessly. Just going forward like that. So if I click on accounting ledger, watch what would happen in your entries. So if you check your accounting entries, you should have the debtors control account, which is debited, then also the sales account, which is credited. Note that inventory is not included here, so definitely you won't have your cost of sales included as well. Then if I go back here, watch what will happen now. So this process involves a delivery. So this scenario could mean that when the invoice is done, to actually show that this particular customer is interested in the product, so I can raise a sales invoice or I've sold it to them to show that okay, that has been done. But we also need to monitor the aspect when the delivery was actually done. You understand? We're trying to separate the delivery from the invoice at that moment. Then I click on this aspect, you will see a delivery which was not included in the previous process that we did. You can see delivery here now. So if I click on delivery here, at this point the system has taken me to a delivery note document where I would have to enter all the details. So if I come down here to say, okay, you can see the warehouse, this is the warehouse, it's going to be updated on. So all I just need to do is to click on save, then submit. So what the process you are going to see at this level when this is completed is that check your ledger account. You will notice that the only thing that is affected here is what? Your cost of sales account and as well as your stock ledger account. So if I look here and view my status, view my accounting ledger for instance, so look at this. So stock of Calabar, which is our stock control account, and as well cost of sales account is affected, and this ledger entry is completed. So if you can see that this is splitted into two. So that process around sales invoice, separating your sales invoice from your delivery process, this aspect would allow for that. So let's go back into, let me go back, so then we can make payments and all that. So so we are going to go back here. I need to explain this to you. So at this point we have let's now look at a process whereby it involves, we are cutting the aspect of CRM, we are cutting the aspect of getting your leads and converting your leads to customers, maybe based on opportunities that are coming in. We're not looking at CRM, we are going into the process of sales. So at the process of sales we have the quotation. Yeah, these two things are just document that does not involve or that does not make any impact on your ledger account. No transactions are posted at this level. All you just need to do is to save it. Now a customer walks up to you to tell you, please, I need a quotation on whatever product. Then you just pick the quotation document. This quotation document can actually be converted into a sales order. So the process is you are making a quotation for some product. If I click on this, I click on this, then yeah, my customer, then let's say this same customer again. So I want a training platform. So the ERP can allow for multiple companies or multiple branches. So we can also implement this for you within the ERPNext. So then I click here, come down here to the products item, which is the LPG for instance. So let's say it's 100. Or let me say 10, so that we are sure we have enough product available. I click on 10. This shows you might want to add your tags and all that into it. Then I click on save. I click on save, then you can actually submit. You can actually submit. Then also, please note that this document can also be generated from the opportunity, which is this CRM I talked about earlier. You can generate the document directly from there. But if that's why I said if we cut that process away, just facing the sales itself, then I come here, you could see that at this level, if I click on submit, no ledger account is affected, but the system is just recording that, okay, this has been confirmed. We could set approval level or a workflow that would allow you to keep checking your transaction at that end. Look at this. You can see that the document is still open. That's why you have a status there as open. Then you can, if no cost, if the customer eventually refuse to buy, you can set as lost, which means you want to close the document. Otherwise, if I click here, then click on sales order, which means I'm converting it to a sales order. So converting it to a sales order, it brings me into the second level or the second process of our sales order. Then I just click on of our sales process. So at this point, I can convert this into, I may not be able to select a warehouse here, maybe because I don't know the warehouse that's supposed to be affected. So this will not be a prerequisite. Then I click on save. Okay, it's required. So let's say it's a prerequisite at that level. So let me pick this and say this and click on save. So a sales order, so an order is being made based on the quotation that was raised on the system. And then I click on submit. Yes. Remember, this is also not affected. So at this level, if you check, you will see that no item is updated here. You can see the status is to be delivered and billed. So billing is the aspect of the invoice, while delivery is to deliver the product, the delivery aspect of it. So at this level, I can, if I come here also, still on the sales document, I can come here to either do a delivery note, do a picking slip at that level. So all those processes, or do a sales invoice directly. You understand? Or I can click here to go back to the process so that we see every process has its own what's called screen. So I can come here directly instead of me using the sales order. I just click on add sales, for instance. So let me say add sales. This has already been generated. I think this is it, but let me click on add sales, for instance. I'll click on add sales, then fetch items from, so I can say fetch items from sales order here. So it's requesting let me pick my customer. Let me say, can't remember the name of the customer. Yeah, let me pick the customer. Let's say this, which is this definitely, and click on so the idea is for it to drop different sales order at that level, drop in the sales order. Okay, let me just close this, then let's go back there. So let's go back here. I think let me just go back here, and because this has already been done, so, or let me just go to, let me go back to my sales process and click on the sales order, and I just click this as well, then convert it. Okay, this is 10, yeah, so I expected it to drop. Yeah, but let's just move on. Then let me just convert this to um, a sales invoice. So automatically, if I convert this to a sales invoice, you can see this is the document. You can then complete the process from where we stop. So that process ends there, and so you can jump depending on the process that your organization uses. So you can start from the full process, which is from the quotation, and you can start from that process, or you can skip a process to get to the sales invoice. So for instance, for one of my clients, Enico Global, would you start from sales invoice? We'll start from sales invoice. So I have another client that starts with quotation. Some start with sales order. So depending on what your process is, some even monitor their delivery, so which is different. So every company or every organization have their own process. And what we try to do is try to listen to business processes of our clients, then see how best to suit the application into their process so that they can get the same result or better improve on their process. So that is that about that. So thank you very much, and watch my next training video on how to use your point of sales to capture the sales invoice. So thank you. Bye.